I tried to fill a void that only God could truthfully fill. It's inevitable that we're going to have situations that we have to learn and grow from. We're going to experience challenges in life that are meant to be lessons to teach us the greatest things that we need to continue on our journey. But what I had to understand was, in my season of falling really, really hard, when I hit rock bottom, everything around me felt like it completely shattered. I no longer had these things to hold on to hide all of my problems. I felt like I was completely open, out in the open. I felt like everything that I never saw before or never acknowledged in my life or never paid attention to was all visible. Suddenly it was visible. We don't acknowledge the pain that we're experiencing from falling itself. Most of the time we fall and we feel broken and we try to scoop up all of the pieces and try to continue on with the same attitude, the same characteristics, the same people, the same environment, the same everything, looking for a different result, looking for a change in our life. But the only change that you're going to experience that will literally catapult your life forward, that is literally life changing, is from those falls that literally break you like nothing else. It's from falling to rock bottom and realizing that you have nothing, you have no one to lean on, and the only person that you can run to is God. So many times in my life, I have set aside my worth to stay in situations that I know weren't ideal for me. I've stayed in situations where I had to suffer in a way to be comfortable from what I thought. I thought that I was in a situation that I could deal with or that wasn't that bad. But what I realized is I was settling because I was afraid of being alone. I was settling because I had fear of trying to go figure out life by myself. I had fear of what life was going to bring me outside of what I was experiencing at that moment. But your fear of failure will keep you stuck every time. Your fear of failure will leave you in situations for too long where you've overstayed your welcome. Your fear of failure will make you put up with things that you don't deserve. It'll make you stay in relationships with people who don't value you as a person, who don't care about you or anything that you have to offer them. And my biggest fall was my biggest, most pivotal moment of my life. It was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. It was the hardest relationship I've ever been in. And how I had to overcome that was by literally picking myself up from the ground with God. I had to know that God was guiding my steps even when it was confusing. I had to trust that God had my best interest in mind even when I thought I knew what I wanted from my life. I thought I knew what I needed. I had to trust God even when He made me do things that I did not want to do, even when I couldn't see the clear path ahead of me. When God tells you to do something and you have your own plans for your life, when God tells you to move, when He tells you to pick up and go to another state, when He tells you to go back to the unfamiliar or go back to a place that you don't necessarily want to be, but then everything from what you do, trusting God, everything from that point changes for you. Everything from that point forward is so much better when you just trust God because He's all knowing. So if I look at my life from back then to now, I can see that the very things that I was experiencing, all of the hardships and the challenges and the people that I was meant to be around, it not only changed my life, but it's changed people's lives around me just because I listened to God. Falling is hard because it makes us not rely on our comfort zones. It makes us fearful of what's to come because we feel like we don't know where we're going. We don't know where we're headed. We don't know where to go from here because we've already fallen so hard. And I think it was so hard for me because I was trying to see my own way through things. I was trying to create my own path, but God was not allowing it. No matter what I tried to do or what I tried to say, certain things just weren't budging. It wasn't fixing itself. And that's how I knew that God was calling me to literally change everything that I was doing. And I couldn't expect a different result from my life if I was doing the same things over and over and over again. And for so many years, I was constantly in the same cycles, expecting a different result. I wasn't necessarily expecting a different result. I was just okay with what I had. I didn't expect much out of life. I wasn't trying to climb any ladders. I knew that I wanted better, but I didn't even know how to get there. And so I just became content with bare minimum. I became content with what I felt like life gave me, which compared to what I have now was literally bare minimum. And so the difference between who I am now and the version of myself that I was back then is I don't expect bare minimum out of life anymore. I have such huge expectations for my own life, and I have so many goals that I have set that I'm actually achieving now versus me not even having goals and standards or anything for my life. And so I couldn't have expected anything to be any different if I wasn't willing to make those changes. But sometimes you're not willing, and God will require you to come crashing all the way down. He will require your walls to fall all the way down so that he can literally get to the core of the problem. He can get to the root of the issue, which is you. And sometimes we stand in God's way because we think we know what's best for ourselves, but God knows everything. He knows what you need. He knows what you don't need. And he knows where he's taking you regardless if you can see that or not. Being at the bottom of my life and feeling like I completely started over from nothing was literally the catalyst for change. It was the very thing that I needed for my life to be extraordinarily better than what it was. And sometimes you can't see how to change your life. There's no way you can possibly think it out sometimes. That's how you really know God is moving in your life, because the things that I've done and the things I've experienced now and the journey that I went through is nothing that I could have thought out myself. It's nothing that I could have literally sat down and planned from point A to point C, from point A to point Z. No, like I had to trust that God knew what he was doing. And obviously he does. He knows what he's doing in general without my 2 cents, my input, anything. But it's such a hard space to be in, because to give up control over your life is something that most people aren't willing to do. And most people, even though they've already fallen, aren't willing to get up with God's help. Most of the time, they try to get up on their own with their own strength and end up falling back down and not realizing that God is calling you to lean on him. And I'm so happy that my plans did not work before. I'm so happy that the situations and relationships and friendships that I had before, they didn't last, because I know now where God is taking me, and I know that there's no possible way that certain things in my life could have transpired if I was dealing with the same individuals or having the same type of mindset. So sometimes you have to realize and really look at yourself and say, if you've been falling and you continue to fall and you're crashing down every time you try to stand back up, if you're at rock bottom and you find yourself there more than ever or consistently, you literally have to look at your life and take inventory and say, what is God trying to remove from my life? What is God trying to save me from? What is he trying to prevent from happening? Or what is he trying to tell me? And most of the time, like I said, I was in a cycle of this. I was in a cycle of trying to build myself back up and came crashing back down, trying to lift my walls back up and they fell all the way back down. Being at rock bottom and trying to lift myself out of that by myself was hard, and I couldn't even do it, because every step I took trying to stand up, I ended up falling immediately back down. And I realized the people around me, the environments I was in, the things that I was experiencing was nothing that God called for my life. But because I was willing to put up with it, that's what life presented to me. Because I didn't have the standards, because I didn't have the authority over my life to say, I deserve this. This is what I stand for. This is what I stand on. I didn't have a very strong relationship with God before, so I didn't really know all of the different things that I know now. And I'm so happy that I learned that, because sometimes you have to come crashing down for God to build you all the way back up, and build you up in a way that makes you strong, that builds you up in a way that no outside force can tear you back down. And if you ever find yourself falling, if you ever find yourself at rock bottom, God is trying to show you something, and he's more than likely trying to change your life in a way that you've never seen coming. It's like the title of this video, you fell so hard for God to lift you all the way back up, to lift you and rise you to the top. That's the thing. Sometimes we fall so hard and the only way we can go is up. We fall to the very bottom. The only direction we can go is up. And I say that with so much passion, because sometimes we look at failure as a bad thing, but you have to understand, if you're failing to win. If you fail and you fell down to the ground, it's only for you to learn something. It's only for you to be better. It's only for you to grow and become and be who God called you to be. So don't look at failure as a bad thing. Don't look at falling as a situation that is meant to be embarrassed by, because we all end up falling at some point. But the whole purpose and the whole goal is to teach us something that we need to go where God is trying to take us. I speak with so much passion about being at the bottom and falling and feeling like I fell in life, because I had found myself there in many occasions. I found myself there many times. And the thing that I'm encouraged to do is help other people rise and help other people lift themselves up through God. I know that sometimes it's so easy to just stay stuck, to stay down in the dumps, and to let the weight of the world rest on your shoulders. But I want to tell you that if you're accepting anything that life's giving you that you don't want, God can give you a life that you never thought possible. And so sometimes we don't even know how to give our life to God. We don't even know how to follow him, how to trust him, how to lean on him. But the same way that you try to lean on other people that fail you and they, don't end up meeting your expectations, God can meet all of your expectations and more. The Bible says that we should not lean on man, because men have flaws. Men fail, and, human beings, we're not perfect. We're made in a way that we make mistakes, right? But because we have a God and we serve God, there's a specific way that God calls us to live. And I want you to know that as you come to God and you trust him and you trust your journey, all of the things that you think you're missing out on, and if you think that you're behind, if you think that you're on a setback, if you think that you've fallen to the point of no return, I want you to know that sometimes the biggest fall is the best blessing in the world. It's the best setup for your biggest success, for your most pivotal change in your life. Like, I can't believe that my fall, as hard as it was, could do what it's done in my life. And it's all because I trusted God.